welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Well, pretty good. It's Sunday evening, and we've had a very enjoyable and maybe a bit surprising weekend of soccer.
Obviously some huge results for some of the teams that we cover regularly on our podcast this weekend. I'm excited to talk more about it.
Yes, so this is our weekend recap episode. We are going to talk about Cavalry FC facing Forge. We'll talk about the Canada West men's final. MRU Cougars played UBC. And we'll talk about the Canada West bronze medal match. It was a rematch of the Dinos versus Cougars. I think those, in particular, those first two matches, we're going to have a lot to say about both of those, I think, in just a couple minutes. What do you think, Scott?
I agree 100%.
All right, well, let's get started and talk about Cavalry defeating Forge and off to the CPL final again next week.
This is Marco Carducci, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
A huge result for Cavalry out in Hamilton, beating Forge 1-0 thanks to a 57th minute goal from who else? Tobias Warshevsky. Jason, this was a masterclass in defending from Cavalry, in my opinion. Last game, their 4-1 win against York. We were praising the front four in particular. This game, I think we have to do the same for the defenders.
Okay, so first thing we got to say is, what is up with this whole Tom Field thing? This guy has been money the last two games, and he's been just sitting around, not even dressing. And I don't know, I guess for whatever reasons, Tommy called on him and gave him the opportunity to step it up, and he's been solid. And that being said, I don't want to take anything away from everyone else defending, but I think it's quite a story what's going on with him right now, actually.
Yeah, he was one I wanted to single out. He had another great game, a couple of huge blocks and tackles. I guess Tommy just really appreciates how dependable he is, particularly on the ball, right? In possession, he's very cautious and he doesn't get ahead of himself. He just, he does his job to a T, and defensively he doesn't make rash challenges, and he's just got a good head on his shoulders. So he was really important to Cavalry's defensive performance today, but pretty much everybody in the back line had a strong outing, right? I think Dan Klomp played well. Mihail Gerasimenkov had a great game. Marco Carducci in goal had some really big saves, right? Especially that first one, and then the one at the very end in stoppage time. So great defensive showing from Cavalry, and they're the first team I think Forge came into this on a 24-game scoring streak. I think I heard the commentators say that. And yeah, it was going to take something special to keep this Forge team from putting the ball in the back of the net, and Cavalry definitely put that out today.
Well, in that first 15 to 20 minutes, Forge just went as hard as they could to try and score because, let's face it, I think they're well aware of the fact that Cavalry has not played well. In fact, I don't think they've won any match where they've conceded the first goal. So I think that their plan was pretty clear cut. They wanted to get on the board early, and they really pushed hard. But, Cavalry's defense held up. And then kind of as the rest of that half went along, the opportunities just started to happen for the team. And then, I don't know, by the time it hit halftime, everything seemed to be, I wouldn't say under control considering it was 0-0, but it seemed like they were in a very good position going into the second half.
Yeah, I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr. did a brief halftime interview with, I think it was Christian Jack on the broadcast, and he made a good point of, Forge has had most of the ball, but we've actually had the better chances. So I kind of fancy our counterattacking style, and that is what Cavalry was doing, right? They did generate a couple of good chances in the first half. Kanija Elva had a couple that honestly he probably could have scored, but Toby Warshevsky, he was a real thorn in the side of Forge's players in the first half. He drew a lot of fouls. I don't think he had any clear-cut chances, but he was getting on the ball and trying to make something happen. And this goal was just a case of him being a fox in the box, because it wasn't a great pass, right, from Kanija Elva. It was to the Forge defender, but the Forge defender, I can't remember who it was, but kind of whiffed on it, and Warshevsky just latched on, and a nice finish from him to chip Jas Kalala like that.
Was it just me, Scott, in this match? But I really thought, Forge, when it came to Warshevsky in particular, but they were really being kind of physical. Like I think I even tweeted out that they were channeling their inner York United a little bit. Like I thought they were very chippy in this match. But I guess, probably like the best revenge was Warshevsky scoring that goal. But they were really knocking him around that first hour of that match.
Yeah, I believe he drew 5 fouls in the first half. I can't remember if that kind of continued into the second half, but good on him to not get too frustrated and to keep his cool and to be able to score that goal. It's yet another goal in the playoffs for Tobias Warshevsky. I believe that's 5 now that he's scored for Cavalry in the postseason in just a handful of matches, right? So just like last year when Cavalry beat Forge at what was then called Tim Hortons Field, he just, he knows what to do to get on the score sheet. And yeah, not quite as nice of an individual goal this time, but still one that really showcases what Warshevsky offers this team.
Yeah, and I don't know, like this whole thing of him playing that number 10 role and Elva playing the number 9. I know this was sort of born out of necessity because Sergio Camargo wasn't or isn't available because of injury, but it really seems to be working.
It does, yeah. I don't know if we'll see it in the final. I think Ottawa is a different team, and Pori will have to change their playing style a little bit. But and we'll see if I don't know if Camargo will be fit for that game or not. Yeah, I mean it has worked 2 games in a row now, right? Like they have a good thing going. They have a good partnership, I guess you could call it, or they communicate well with each other. And yeah, 2 games in a row, it's worked. So maybe we will see them line up again a week from now.
Actually, Scott, about Camargo, in the post-match press conference, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. did suggest it was possible that Camargo could be available next week. So you know what it's like when you talk about injuries. So I think that's far from a sure thing, but he did not discount the possibility that he could be back. I did record the post-match press conference for both Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and Shamit Shome. So we can actually run that Tommy's segment right now, actually, and you can hear for yourself.
That's the away performance we've needed, really, against a fantastic side that we needed to make sure that everybody was willing to defend at every possible moment, knowing that we'll create some really good chances, and we did. Knija's hit the post second half. Gote's had an incredible 1v1 save, and Toby's finish was sublime. But I thought we created good chances, but what pleased me today was the way which we played for each other. Listen, he's a player for the big occasion. He's so entertaining to watch. But I think their starting lineup, just being presumptuous here, was a credit to the front for the way they play. I thought how well Toby played. Knija Elva did that. He led the line so well. Like, I don't know if you could see it or hear it on the sidelines, but we could see him talking, bringing people with him, bringing the ball down. We were able to play over their press from time to time to free up, Gote, Musi, and Toby. And the midfielders, Sham and Cobbs, are able to support underneath Fraser and Mihal as fullbacks. But it was a fantastic team effort. And Toby loves a big goal and big moments. And again, he's going to keep telling me he's unbeaten in playoffs. Yeah, look, I've got to give a lot of credit to my coaching staff. Obviously from, Jay Wheeldon does a lot of our set plays. So every time that was a moment, whether we were defending or attacking, it was a moment of a restart that we were well organised and committed to. To Nick Ledgerwood, who's in my ear about, this moment, that moment. It allows me in the second half to observe the game in that first 10, 15 minutes of the half to see if there's any changes. And then we made our changes, and we were knowing that, Forge are going to be putting crosses in. So we heightened the back line and we put an extra midfield body in there. I think Toby had run us due. So fortunately, we were able to see that out. So we didn't go into extra time because we've been there before in 2023. But no, it was a game of game management. And even, when we're getting throw-ins and corner kicks in the corner, the lads, this is the experience of playing in CONCACAF, is knowing, how to win a game. And we almost scored again with Nicholas in that break too. But great reaction from Nicholas to then, after the shot, pick it up, slow it down again. Absolutely. Listen, I've got to give credit. I know I said what I said in terms of, Bobby's a winner, right? And this trophy cabinet speaks for that. He's disappointed to lose, but those handshakes at the end. Forge have been terrific. They've been to 6 out of 7 finals now, right? So we've got to give credit where it's due. That's hard. We're in our 3 in a row now. This is our 4th out of 7. So They've led the league in that. So in order to pick up a trophy, you got to go through them. And today we did. And it was no easy task. And they're a fantastic moment. I think that's the beauty of it, where you don't notice him until you watch the game back. His interceptions, his reading of the play, he's probably one of those quiet leaders. And in fairness, like I said, he stepped up to the plate when we've needed that calmness the most to partner Klompy, and he's just brought others with him. I thought he was superb today. Hopefully he was just cramping up and nothing too serious, but that's my fault for not playing him a lot sooner, because he's certainly done a task for the team. Yeah, look, they were old. I think the first 15, 20 we were chasing, they were putting a lot of pressure on us and we had to survive it in it. And I think that was very similar to last year's semi-final. Bend but not break. So Camargo, even though he didn't travel with us, remind the lads is, at times we've got to know we've got to come here and you've got to suffer a little bit. But in doing so, if you don't break, you're going to have opportunities the other way, which we did. And that's credit to the way the lads absorbed it, blocked it. Players like Sham and Cobbs, you don't necessarily see them on the highlights, but they cover so much ground and allow people to get up the pitch, the defenders, blocks, interceptions. Yeah, so I thought we responded well. Once the energy of that went, and I thought we then got into the game, I thought we were the better team second half.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. I got to ask you about Marco, because I thought he was as brilliant as could be today.
Yeah, do you know what? He was brave. Brave in terms of coming out for the crosses. I don't know how many crosses or free kicks or corners, but he seemed to get his hands on them. And I think because they'd had that joy in 2023 of scoring from one, they seem to want to do it every time now. But I think what he's done is what maturity and what character to come out and be big and brave. And the lads around him supported him. Gote coming out, Sham to take on the edge of the box and create a counter-attack. So no, he's good. Like the way he managed the game, like the way at times he played through the press and he played over the press. And I think he just gives us a different quarterback approach.
It felt, I know you talked about this a little bit before, but it felt like Forge wanted to make sure you knew they were there early in that game, with the big push at the start, and then just being right in your faces and making sure that you guys knew, that they weren't going to back down from whatever aggression you guys were going to bring.
Yeah, I think Sham touched on it in his answer. We have a day a week, the red day, that kind of leads into this stuff where the job of us coaches is to piss the players off. We do that quite well, I think. And it gets us ready for these moments. They hate us for it, but we give them a day off afterwards and then all is forgiven. But it prepares us for playoffs.
So was there talk at halftime about that, making sure, because there was a little uneasiness there for a little while, but it seemed like second half you guys just said, you know what, we're playing our game and we're coming out.
Yeah, we did. And we had our video analyst came down. We had two things that we wanted to look at: how we defended and the shape we're in and the opportunities on the break, to how we could break down their press and structure and get opportunities the other way. And it was very simple. And then it was about emotional control. Play the game in front of you, play the challenge in front of you, play the pass in front of you.
Tommy, congrats. Carlos for Pelota de Maple. Quick question. I just want if you can walk us through the rationale for Tommy playing, a little bit far behind, but once in his natural habitat, which is the final box, he's just a killer. If you can walk us through, and what's the update on Sergio Camargo as well?
Yeah, so Carlos, look, Toby keeps telling me ever since he signed for me, he's not a number 9. And I just keep telling him, yeah, no, you're right. Just when we have the ball drop into these half spaces and when we have it turn, get him faced up. But when we defend, can you do these things for us? So I think he's playing the same sort of position. The difference is now he's got somebody like Kanija ahead of him that can occupy centre halves, and I think he's the best in the league at it. He hasn't played enough through his fitness, but now he's able to do it because it frees Toby up a little bit more. Sergio's had a special year. We're hoping that he has a good week this week to get him back for next week, because if that's the case, then it's a full squad and some really good options in starting and finishing games.
Hey, Tommy, huge congrats on the win.
Thomas.
Last year was kind of, I feel like, a coming out party for you guys in the playoffs, where you're finally able to get over the hurdle that was Forge. So having done that last year, did that mentally, do you think, give you guys an edge in this playoffs, going to Hamilton and getting a result that until last year you hadn't really got in the playoffs?
Great question, Thomas. I'm not sure. That's probably a one for Bobby to answer, because I think all we've seen going into it is we beat them here and then we beat them in the final. We had a good record against them this year. And I told the lads, even after they beat us in the first game of the season here, I said, we won't lose to them again. I just felt that there was just something shifting. in the rivalry. We knew that coming here, we had to put in the performance that won it last year. And we've almost been able to copy and paste that, as much as I think you can't do that. But I think mentally, we were able to compete.
I know very often, Scott, you like to pull up the post-game stats and kind of do a bit of an analysis of them. So I know you did the same for this match. So any particular stats jump out at you?
Well, as we highlighted, it was a real defensive performance from Cavalry, and that is reflected in the stats, right? Cavalry had to defend 8 corner kicks, and what I noticed was Forge was trying to replicate on a couple of those corner kicks what they managed to do in the 2023 final, which is score an Olympico. And they were really crowding the 6-yard box and trying to keep Marco Carducci on his line, and then putting their corners right on top of him. And I think 2 or 3 corner kicks, Marco Carducci had to try and make some space for himself to punch those balls out of danger. And he did that admirably on each occasion. The other stat that really jumped out to me, or 2 stats that really jumped out to me, was that Forge pumped 30 crosses into Cavalry's box. Cavalry only, I think, had 6 crosses, which, for a team that likes to cross the ball as often as Cavalry does, when you have the likes of Fraser Aird and Ali Musi on the wings, they really didn't have that kind of playing style today. And the other thing I want to highlight is Cavalry won 60% of the aerial duels in this one. So they really put in a physical performance.
The only other stat I wanted to mention, which I thought was interesting, was that at halftime, Cavalry's XG was 1.21 and Forge's was like less than half of that. It was 0.56. So I don't know. I'm not a big XG guy necessarily, but I kind of thought that was interesting. And I believe at the end, the final, Cavalry's XG was over 2, I believe. And I'm not sure if Forge's ever actually even made it to 1. So I'm not necessarily sure what to read into that, but I thought it was kind of an interesting stat that I saw.
Well, what I would read into that is that the defense was doing their job of blocking those shots, right? And snuffing out attacks. So Forge didn't produce that many clean-cut chances because of how well Cavalry defended. And if you look at it on the counter, I mean, how many times did Cavalry actually, like you think about Gauthier Natigny, honestly should have scored to make it 2-0 with that breakaway in the second half. But yeah, nice save on that one from Jas Kalelet. Yeah, Jason, we kind of have to mention how this is the first year that Forge will not play in the CPL championship game.
It's kind of strange how that worked out. Probably their strongest, well, not probably, definitely their strongest regular season campaign, but the one that they're not going to go to the final. In the post-match press conference, Bobby Smirnionis posited a theory. He said he thinks winning the Shield affected them. He said no team has ever won the double in the CPL, and he just thinks that complacency of winning, he said, you've already had a steak dinner and then you have to go have another meal again, and you're playing against someone who's desperate because Cavalry hadn't won a trophy. They're not going to CONCACAF as of this game. So they had that stuff in their back pocket, and he thinks there's something there, and maybe he's right. I don't know.
It is true that nobody has won the double in the CPL. Every season has had a different regular season and playoff champion. So maybe there's a valid argument to that. Like, you win the Shield, you're into the CONCACAF tournament regardless. So, but I can't imagine that the players are really thinking that in these games. You can see the disappointment on Forge's face as the clock ticked down. And it was the same last year when they lost the final. So
I think that maybe there's some merit to the point. I think they put in a full effort and wanted to win.
Yeah, all I can say to that is Cavalry is only halfway there, right? Like we talked about how hard it was going to be for them to retain their title, and obviously an equally tough, if not even more difficult, in my opinion, road trip next week. But that's for us to discuss on Thursday night.
The final match will be on Sunday afternoon in Ottawa at 3 p.m. Calgary time. And the last thing I'll mention before we move on from Cavalry is here's the complete audio from Shamit Shome's post-match interview.
Yeah, really happy. I think it was a really gutsy performance from us, kind of back to our roots. And, that's 3 finals in 3 years, all in different ways, different paths. So we can show we can do it whatever way it takes. And so we can hopefully carry this momentum onto the final. Yeah, it was huge. It was like I said, it was kind of like it felt like it was normal again. That's what we're used to. That's what we can do. Our back line. But wasn't just the back four and midfielders. It was the front four. They can score goals, but they can work their socks off and defend for us. Everybody from the front four did that for us, from Toby to Musi to Jija to Gote. It was great. Yeah, I think it was just we were able to manage the game in the right moments, keep the ball when we needed to, and also just grind. That's the momentum of the game. We're up a goal. They're going to throw everything at us. You saw Oluwabi Belu started coming forward. So we had Cobbs to draw back and help a bit deeper. But we just managed their long balls, managed the crosses. But this is stuff we trained for. We've prepared for this from preseason, that we knew we'd be in these moments. So it just felt like normal, felt like a training session where we were ready to survive and grind this result out once we got that goal. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, we've had a taste of CONCACAF the last couple of years. We've had some success this year. So now we want to go back to that. And that's a huge motivation for us to perform in this final. Ottawa's a good team and we're going to be prepared for them because they've had a number a bit. But I think we're going to come fully prepared, and we're kind of showing that we're hitting our full stride now. And we're starting to show our best self, which we haven't yet. So we're still building, but I'm excited for it. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a huge piece, especially because we have so much continuity. We've got guys from the last couple of years who have been here, some new pieces that are hungry to play their role and contribute. And, in moments like this, grinding it out, defending the box with our lives, that's stuff that we've done before. We've done it against Forge last year in the semifinal to win in the same result, same way. So, I think we're just relying on those experiences. It's just instinct now. And like I said, we've also trained for these moments because we knew we'd be here and we'd have to be able to manage a game once we get that goal. Yeah, I think, to be honest, we take it game by game. We don't get too ahead of ourselves. So our full focus was on this result and executing. I think now we're on to the next project, which is Ottawa away in a big final game. So now we switch our full focus and commitment to that. To be honest, I don't think we've been thinking too far ahead of it. We knew we wanted to be there, but now we're going to lock in and make sure we focus on the details to be prepared for that match.
Todd Saloff, Calgary Sun, Calgary Herald. Tell me about your goalkeeper today. I'm not sure I've seen him make so many big saves in the moment.
Yeah, Ducci was huge. And we know within our team that Ducci can pull off those moments and make big saves. I think he had a couple in the first half, a couple in the second half. His game management was unreal in terms of his distribution from the back, coming out for crosses. And we've talked about in the locker room, before the playoffs, that gives the team confidence and reassurance that, when your goalkeeper is going to step up big for you in those moments, it just gives our back line, it gives our midfield, it gives our front four confidence that we're going to hold it down in the back. Our keeper's, going to bail us out if we need to. And we can build from there. So he was huge. And, it's what we expected of him because he's that good.
It seemed like Forge came out and really wanted to make sure that you knew they were there. In terms of it was a pretty bitter game. Did you guys feel that in the heat? Did you guys say anything at halftime to say, you know what, we got to go and play our game and not worry too much about what's going on outside of the box?
Yeah, for sure. I think, when it's Cavalry versus Forge, they're always heated games, they're always intense games. And you saw things got a bit spicy both in the first half and second half. But again, we've trained for these moments. We've trained for things to get heated. We've trained for emotions to get high. And I think we were the more level-headed team. And I think we were able to come out in the second half after, all the spiciness and come out on the front foot. And that kind of set the momentum for the second half. After managing with, I think they had a good first 10, 15 minutes. We managed that storm and then started to get ourselves settled into the game.
Hey, this is Judd Strauss, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Jason, I was going to suggest if Cavalry did not win this weekend, that we should lead our episode tonight with some post-secondary soccer, which we don't often do. But in the case of this Saturday, I thought, until we learned that Cavalry had won, I thought it was warranted because MRU Cougars men's team won their second ever Canada West title in dramatic fashion, beating UBC 2-1 on their brand new turf field. First ever game on that field, and they win a trophy.
Yeah, quite a match. I know we were texting each other a bit and talking about this could be a really good one to watch, and wow, was it ever. The scoreline, there was lots of drama, 5 minutes in UBC, they started the scoring at that point, and then ultimately it turned into I think a stoppage time winner by Chinan Chanda in the end.
Yeah. Amazing, hey? And the cross coming from Josh Flaxman, fifth year. What a story, hey? I mean, early goal for UBC just 5 minutes in. Theo Afork, who is from Calgary, the assist from Marcus Kaiser, who is from Calgary as well. But MRU, to their credit, clawed their way back into it in front of a ton of fans at Stadium Field. Ruben Kadelka tied it up in the 27th minute off of an assist from Alex Kemsley, who I believe is the Cougars captain. And then 90th minute, freshman of the year, Channon Chanda, scoring a very easy header off of a perfect cross from Flaxman. I'm not sure what UBC's defender was doing on that play because he just sprinted off the goal line, and Chanda, all he had to do was nod it in from 2 yards out. But pandemonium after that.
Good for the Cougars. Crazy end to that match. And now they're going to be off to nationals with UBC this week.
Yeah, so obviously the top 2 teams from each conference in Canadian University Soccer qualify for nationals. So from that perspective, I mean, UBC had already booked their berth. So it's disappointing to give up their Canada West title that they won last year. But, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the nationals, as it's a tournament that they're so used to. For MRU, though, this will be their 3rd nationals in a row, right? Like, they won the Canada West title in 2023, first Calgary team to win it since 1980. And then last year they came close, but lost to UBC in the final. And here we are a year later, and they've lifted their 2nd Canada West title. And obviously, I think, Jason, MRU has struggled at the 2 nationals that they've been to. But at this point, I think they have players who've been there now 3 times. This will be their 3rd time. So they'll know what to expect a little bit more than maybe they did last year or before.
Yeah, but they're not going to have an easy first-round match. They're going to play Cape Breton, who has won the national championship last year or the year before.
No, I think UBC won it last year. But yeah, Cape Breton has definitely won it a couple of times in the last, I want to say, 5 years.
From a Cavalry FC perspective, interesting subplot there. Channan Chanda versus Max Pipegrass. Both played for Cavalry this summer, and they'll be facing off against each other in this match.
Yeah, pretty cool. I'm sure they'll pose for a picture before or after. But Chanda, I mean, Jason, I think he's going to play in bigger games in his career than this one on Saturday. But what a way to write your name into MRU soccer folklore, hey? Like rookie of the season, and then scores the winning goal in the conference championship game in the 90th minute. Like, I think he will remember that goal for his whole life.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. Again, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I think, once all the matches are done and we're doing some, end of the year wrap-ups, talking about his impact on the MRU Cougars this year after really, having kind of an underwhelming spring and summer with Cavalry, it's definitely going to be a topic worth mentioning. And he's just played great. Like, what can you really say about what he's done over the fall for the Cougars?
Hi, this is Aislinn Phillips, and this is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So, Jason, there was one other university game this weekend that we were paying attention to. This was the all-Calgary bronze medal match in the Canada West playoffs on the women's side. 3rd time that the U of C Dinos and MRU Cougars faced each other this year, and the first time on neutral soil. Ultimately, it was a pretty comfortable win for the Dinos, 3-0, with goals coming from Grace Moore, Kaylee Major, which was a screamer, by the way, and Jaden Burke. A pretty dominating performance by the sounds of things for the Dinos, and credit to them, losing their match against Trinity Western. I think in the way they lost it in penalty kicks must have just been crushing. But head coach Diogo Raposo and his staff were able to rally this team and to putting together a good final performance of the season. Yeah, and they get some hardware, right? Like, obviously, this is not the game that these players wanted to be playing in this weekend, but credit to them for putting that crushing defeat to Trinity Western out of their mind, and within 24 hours coming back and putting in such a strong performance against a local rival. Yeah, it was a great season for the Dinos. I think it didn't go the way they wanted to at the very end, but can't discredit the fact that they only lost 1 game all season, not counting that penalty shootout. They were a great team, and it is good that so many of their players who are graduating after this year, will have won the last game of their career. It's quite rare to win the last game of your university soccer career in a playoff game. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other ways to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links to buy my book, Here Come the Cavalry, which is all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is @YYCSoccer403. Thanks for listening.